So we'll do our Caitanya Charitamrita invocation all together. Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Yeah, so we are very studying Advaita chapter 6, the glories of the Sri Advaita Acharya. So we're still, Krishna's Kaviraj is unpacking the invocation verses that he started off in the first chapter of the Adi Leela, where he was offering his respectful obeisances to Advaita Acharya. And so now he's going to elaborate on the position of the Advaita Acharya. So that's one. Vande tam Srimad Advaita Charyam Advaita Cheshritam Yasya Prasadat Agyopi Tatsvarupam Nirupayet. Offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Advaita Acharya, whose activities are all wonderful. By his mercy, even a foolish person can describe his characteristics. Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
All glories to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Advaita Acharya, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Ancha Shloke Kahila Shri Nityananda Tattva Loka Dvaya Kahi Advaita Acharya Ramahatva.
In 5 verses, I have described the principles of Lord Nityananda. Then, in the following 2 verses, I describe the glories of Sri Advaita Acharya.
Yeah, so we just heard a whole long chapter about the glories of Lord Nityananda. Now we're going to hear that. Mahavishnu Jagatkarta Maya Yaya Srijatyada Tasya Vatara Evayam Advaita Acharya Ishvaraha.
Lord Advaita Acharya is the incarnation of Mahavishnu, whose main function is to create the cosmic world through the actions of Maya.
Yeah, so Advaita Acharya Ishvara. Ishvara means the Lord. So Advaita Acharya is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? He's an expansion of the Lord. Advaitam Harin Advaitam Harin Advaitat Acharyam Bhakti Samshanam Bhaktavataram Isham Tvam Advaita Acharyam Ashraye.
Because he is non-different from Hari, the Supreme Lord, he is called Advaita. And because he propagates the cult of devotion, he is called Acharya. He is the Lord and the incarnation of the Lord's devotee. Therefore, I take shelter of him.
Yeah, so his name, Dvaita, means two, right? Krishna. Dvaita means two, and Advaita means not two. So in other words, it means one. So Krishna's Kaviraj is saying that Advaita Acharya, he's called Advaita because he's basically one and the same as Hari, the Supreme Lord. And yet, in this Leela, he comes as a devotee. So, because he preaches devotional service. Because he is a teacher of devotional service, he is called Acharya. He teaches by his words, and he also teaches by his example. That's the meaning of Acharya, right? Like in ISKCON, our founder Acharya is Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada gave us his teachings, instructions, the philosophy, his books, and then he also taught by his personal example. Right? Srila Prabhupada wanted us to wake up early, go to Mangalarti, chant japa, attend the meeting of the deities and all that. So he did that. He taught by his practical example. So Advaita Acharya, he's the Lord, but he taught by his example. And Lord Caitanya is the same. He's the Lord, he's the original Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself. And he came and took the position of a devotee to teach us how to be your devotees and sage. take shelter of him. Advaita Acharyam Ashraya means I take shelter of Advaita Acharya. Actually, Advaita Acharya, he was quite a bit older. He was even older than Lord Chaitanya's father. And he was one of the main exponents of Vaishnavism. And Lord Chaitanya's older brother, Vishwarup, used to go every day to the house of Advaita Acharya. He was very inspired by Advaita Acharya, and he would hear from him. Advaita Acharya would be doing some Bhagavad Gita every day. Vishwarup got so inspired to just give up everything and dedicate his life to the service of Krishna. Then he took sannyas at a young age. And then when Lord Chaitanya, who was Nimai, he started going over to Advaita Acharya's house when he was young. And when he got to be like a little older, maybe, I don't know, maybe like 10, 12 years old, he started going over there to hear from Advaita Acharya, and Sachimati got very worried. He was like, oh no, I lost one son to this Advaita Acharya. She didn't like him going over there. She tried to stop him from hear from Advaita Acharya. So she committed a slight offense in her mind to Advaita Acharya. And Chaitanya made her apologize to him. Yeah. Advaita Acharya Gosai Sakshat Ishvara Yana Mahima Nahe Jivera Gochara. What do we have there today? Oh, Lazara. Did I pronounce your name right? Or is it
Love.
Lazara?
It's Love Prabhu. He doesn't have his initiated name there.
Oh, Love Prabhu.
but-
Would you like to read the translation for text 6? You have it there?
Which verse is?
It's Adi Lila chapter 6, text 6.
6, verse 6. Okay. Says Sri Advaita Acharya is indeed directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. His glory is beyond the conception of ordinary living beings.
Yeah, so we can't even conceive of his glories. Too much glories. It's beyond our ability of our small brains to even conceptualize. Mahavishnu Shishti Karena Jagat Adhikaya Dana Avatara Sakshat Advaita Acharya. Ajit?
Mahavishnu performs all the functions for the creation of the universes. Sri Advaita Acharya is his direct incarnation.
So Advaita Acharya is Mahavishnu, Karanadakshaya Vishnu, who is the first Purusha in the, responsible for creating all the material universes. Ye Purusha Shishti Sthiti Karena Mayaya Ananta Brahmanda Shishti Karena Vilaya. Sneha.
Yeah, that Purusha creates and maintains with his external energy. He creates innumerable universes in his pastimes.
Uchaya Anantamurti Karena Prakasha Eka Esha Murte Karena Brahmande Pravesha. Nikesh.
By his will, he manifests himself in unlimited forms in which he enters each and every universe.
So, yeah, Advaita Acharya's sweet will, he expands himself into unlimited forms, and he enters into unlimited universes as actually a partial expansion of himself called Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. 10. De Purushara Amsha Advaita Nahi Kichu Veda Sarira Vishesha Tanya Nahika Vicheda. Divya.
And Krishna, sorry, where are we?
We're Adi Lila chapter 6, text 10.
Sorry, let me do that. Or maybe can I do the next one?
Yeah. I'll just read this. Sri Advaita Acharya is a plenary part of that Purusha, and so is not different from him. Indeed, Sri Advaita Acharya is not separate, but is another form of that Purusha. Text 11. This one has a long. not so long. The next one has a really long purport. Sahaya Karina Tamra Lahiya Pradana Koti Brahmanda Karina Ichaya Nirmana. You with us, Divya?
Yeah. He, Advaita Acharya, helps in the pastimes of the Purusha, with whose material energy and by whose will he creates innumerable universes.
Jagat Mangala Advaita Mangala Gunadama Mangala Charita Sada Mangala Yanradama. Somebody's very Mangala. Pragati?
Being a reservoir of all auspicious attributes, Sri Advaita Acharya is all auspicious for the world. His characteristics, activities, and name are always auspicious. Purport. Sri Advaita Prabhu, who is an incarnation of Mahavishnu, is an Acharya or teacher. All his activities and all the other activities of Vishnu are auspicious. Anyone who can view the all auspiciousness in the pastimes of Lord Vishnu also become auspicious simultaneously. Therefore, since Lord Vishnu is the fountainhead of auspiciousness, anyone who is attracted by the devotional service of Lord Vishnu can render the greatest service to human society. Rejected persons of the material world who refuse to understand pure devotional service as the eternal function of the living entities and as actual liberation of the living being from conditioned life become bereft of all devotional service because of their poor fund of knowledge.
Yeah, so it's interesting here. He's saying that anyone who can view the all auspiciousness in the pastimes of Lord Vishnu also becomes auspicious simultaneously. So anyone who hears about the pastimes of the Lord and understands that they're very auspicious, then that person also becomes auspicious. That's one of the qualities, that's one of the characteristics of pure devotional service, right? Shubhada, that it gives all auspiciousness. It makes your life very blessed, very fortunate. Everything becomes auspicious and wonderful. So he's saying that here, that Advaita Acharya is all auspicious, his name is auspicious, his character is auspicious, his activities are auspicious, and he brings auspiciousness to the world. And anyone who appreciates how auspicious he is also becomes auspicious. It's like contagious. Okay.
I was also thinking of the thought that when we say that if you see good in people, you get good qualities. So I was linking it with this. If we see auspiciousness, if we are capable to see auspiciousness, then
Yeah, actually, that's a really important point because, I mean, in the world, there's a lot of good things and there's a lot of bad things, right? In any individual, there's a lot of good qualities and there can also be a lot of faults, right? Because after all, it's Kali Yuga, Kali Dosha, Nidhi Rajan, it's an ocean of faults. So we're going to see a lot of faults. So if we tune our minds and our vision in such a way that we see people's faults and see the faults of the world, then we just become fault finders and we become full of faults ourselves. Right? But if we get negative and depressed and anxious and fearful and don't trust anyone, and life becomes horrible actually. But if we try to overlook the faults, this is a characteristic of great personalities, that they overlook the faults and they see the good qualities. And then because we focus on the good qualities, then we attract good people, and it also rubs off on us. It also like brings out the best in us. And when we see good qualities in others and we appreciate other people, then they also appreciate us, and we can have nice relationships. And we see that the world is full of good people, and there's a lot of good things happening. And yeah, it's not a bad world; it's a pretty good world actually. And then we can just use everything in Krishna's service. Right? That's what devotional service is. It means living a life in the mode of goodness and offering that to Krishna. Okay, go ahead.
in the teachings of Advaita Prabhu, there is no question of fruitive activities or impersonal liberation. Bewildered by the spell of the material energy, however, persons who could not understand that Advaita Prabhu is non-different from Vishnu wanted to follow him with their impersonal conceptions. The attempt of Advaita Prabhu to punish them is also auspicious. Lord Vishnu and his activities can bestow all good fortune, directly and indirectly. In other words, being favored by Lord Vishnu and being punished by Lord Vishnu are one and the same because all the activities of Vishnu are absolute. According to some, Mangala was another name of Advaita Prabhu. As the causal incarnation or Lord Vishnu's incarnation for a particular occasion, he is the supply agent or ingredient in material energy. However, he is never to be considered material. All his activities are spiritual. Anyone who hears about and glorifies him becomes glorified himself. For such activities, free one from all kinds of misfortune. One should not invest any material contamination or impersonalism in the Vishnu form. Everyone should try to understand the real identity of Lord Vishnu, for by such knowledge one can attain the highest stage of perfection.
Yeah, it's funny. It says that in the teachings of Advaita Acharya, there's no question of fruitive activities or impersonal liberation. But some people still wanted to follow him with their impersonal conceptions. And some people are so determined to be impersonalists that just like they'll take the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is literally standing there in his personal form talking, and he's showing his, different forms and saying how his personal form is the best form to worship him, and that personal form is the best way to worship him, and how much he loves his devotees and all these things. And still people will take that and put an impersonal spin on it. Right? And say, oh, when Krishna says this, he doesn't really mean it. What he really means is this. He doesn't mean surrender to him personally. He means surrender to the unborn, unmanifested in Krishna. So the people who are determined to be impersonalists, they'll just make everything into impersonalism. But actually, there's one kind of fun pastime where Advaita Acharya, he was feeling a little neglected by Lord Caitanya, because Lord Caitanya would, he would chastise his, followers sometimes. So, but Advaita Acharya was much senior, but in age, to Lord Caitanya. So Lord Chaitanya would never chastise. He was always just very respectful and, very reverential towards Advaita Acharya. And then one time Advaita Acharya, he was complaining. He was complaining to the devotees, like, Lord Chaitanya, he always just worships me. He's the Lord. I don't want him to worship me. I want him to see me as his servant. So the only way that I can make him to really know that he sees me as his servant is if he will chastise me, because the master chastises the servant. The master doesn't chastise his friends, doesn't chastise his seniors. So I'll know he accepted me as his servant if he chastises me. So then Advaita Acharya, he started preaching like Mayavad philosophy. And then Lord Chaitanya, he can't tolerate any Mayavad philosophy, so he immediately said, what is this nonsense? What are you speaking? You just stay quiet. Don't say anything. And so then when Lord Chaitanya spoke to him like that, chastising him, then he became so happy, he started like dancing, Hariva! Yeah, Lord Chaitanya has accepted me as his servant. Yeah. Okay, text 13. Koti Amsha, Koti Shakti, Koti Avatara, Ektalana Shidre Purusha Sakala Samsara.
Mahavishnu creates the entire material world with millions of his parts, energies, and incarnations.
Yeah, so millions of amshas and parts, millions of shaktis, energies, millions of avatars. Many things. Okay, this one, I think for the next verse, because it has like a 10-page purport, we'll just read paragraph by paragraph and go around. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot for one person. Maya yache dui amsha nimita upadana. Maya nimita hetu upadana pradana. Purusha Ishvara Aiche Vimurti Haya Vishratristi Kare Nimita Upadana Vana. Krishna reading?
There are two. Just as the external energy consists of two parts, the efficient cause nimitta and the material cause upadana, maya, being the efficient cause and pradhana, the material cause. So Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, assumes two forms to create the material world with the efficient and material causes.
Okay. Let's read the first paragraph. Please.
There are two kinds of research to find the original cause of creation. One conclusion is that Supreme Personality of Godhead, the all blissful, atonement, the all knowing form, is indirectly the cause of this cosmic manifestation, and directly the cause of the spiritual world, where there are innumerable spiritual planets known as Vaikunthas, as well as his personal abode known as Golok Vrindavan. In other words, there are two manifestations, the material cosmos and the spiritual world. As in the material world, there are innumerable planets and universes, so in the spiritual world, there are also innumerable spiritual planets and universes, including the Vaikunthas and Goloka. The Supreme Lord is the cause of both material and spiritual worlds. The other conclusion, of course, is that this cosmic manifestation is caused by an inexplicable, unmanifested void. This argument is meaningless.
Yeah, so Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartite iti mahta bhajante mam Buddha bhava samanditaha. I am the source of all material and spiritual worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. So that's what Prabhupada is saying here. Same thing. That Krishna is the source of the material cosmos and the spiritual world. So in the material world, there are so many planets, many universes, and each universe there's so many planets. And in the spiritual world also, there's so many planets. In fact, many, many more planets. The spiritual world is at least 3 times the size of the whole material cosmic manifestation. But all of those planets are eternal. And they're made from they're manifestations of the internal energy of the Lord, whereas in this, everything in the material world is made from the external energy of the Lord.
In the description so far, we have got only the spiritual plan, Bhagavad the spiritual universe reference.
We hear only about the material universe, right? The description of the material universe.
We have got only about spiritual planets, but not spiritual universe.
Yeah, here and there it says some things, right? Like there's description of the Vaikuntha planets, but it doesn't. Yeah, I think it's in other places, like Lagu Bhagavatamrita describes like the sort of the geography of the spiritual world.
Here also it says that the innumerable spiritual planets and universes, including the Vaikunthas and Golok. So they're saying Vaikuntha is spiritual universe.
Yeah. Yeah, those, Vaikunthas and Goloka are all.
Yeah.
Usually it's referred as a planet, so far, whatever we have read. Vaikuntha and Goloka are referred as spiritual planets.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so many Vaikuntha planets. There's like countless Vaikuntha planets, but they're planets, yeah. Each planet has a different form of Lord Vishnu or Narayan who's presiding. Okay, let's keep going here.
But Goloka is just one, it's not in you.
Yeah, there's only one Goloka up at the top. Okay, Love, would you like to read the second paragraph of that?
The first conclusion is accepted by the Vedanta philosopher, and the second is supported by the atheistic philosophical system of the Sankhya Smriti, which directly opposes the Vedantic philosophical conclusion. Material scientists cannot see any cognizant spiritual substance that might be the cause of the creation. Such atheistic Sankhya philosophers think that the symptoms of knowledge and living force visible in the innumerable living creatures are caused by the 3 qualities of the cosmic manifestation. Therefore, the Sankhites are against the conclusion of Vedanta regarding the original cause of creation.
Yeah, so these materialistic Sankhya philosophers are basically like material scientists who think that everything is just product of matter, right? That even the living entities are caused by the different qualities of matter. Okay, Ajit Guru?
Sorry, I haven't been following. I'm multitasking.
Okay, so we'll go to Sneha then.
Yeah. Actually, the Supreme Absolute Spirit Soul is the cause of every kind of manifestation, and is always complete, both as the energy and as the energetic. The cosmic manifestation is caused by the energy of the Supreme Absolute Person, in whom all energies are conserved. Philosophers who are subjectively engaged in the cosmic manifestation can appreciate only the wonderful energies of matter. Such philosophers accept the conception of God only as a product of material energy. According to their conclusions, the source of the energy is also a product of the energy. Such philosophers wrongly observe that the living creatures within the cosmic manifestation are caused by the material energy, and they think that the Supreme Absolute Conscious Being must similarly be a product of the material energy.
Yeah, I was listening to a class yesterday. Now the Bhaktivedanta Institute for Higher Studies, which is based in Gainesville now, is running a course. It's a long course. It's called, I think it's just called Consciousness Studies or something like that. And yeah, they have all these, PhD scientists and philosophers who are presenting, right, different points of view on the topic of consciousness. And so the first class, I heard the first class, and it was very interesting. He's a devotee, or he's initiated devotee, but he's also like a research scientist, and he's like a physicist or something. Anyways, so he was talking about how, he was talking about how science has actually come up with a lot of reasonable explanations for how different structures of the universe developed, over time. And they've come up with all of these explanations and mathematical models and things like that. And he says that these are actually like good, they're good. But the problem with science is that scientists they don't really recognize their own limitations, right? The limitations of the scope of knowledge which they can actually discover through the scientific method. So they might be able to give answers to certain questions like, okay, how did this galaxies come out of dark matter or something like that? They have all these theories for these things, but they can't even begin to answer questions as to like, why did this happen, or who started it, or right, like they can't attribute any purpose or value or to the whole material world. And so what happens is that when people think that science is the only way of knowing something, then our knowledge becomes devoid of purpose, right? Because they can't understand, they just can't answer any why questions. They don't even ask the why questions. They just right. So what we have to understand is that science can tell us how some things happen, not even everything, but they can tell us the how of some things, but they can't tell us the why. So if all we know is how, then so much is missing. Our knowledge is so limited. And then he was linking that to how people who just get caught up in material science and materialistic explanations of the universe and everything, it actually leads to a lot of like depression, and anxiety and things, because people end up, there's no purpose, right? That's what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 16 about the demoniac nature, is that they say that this world has no purpose, right? It just is. Somehow it just came to be, and it has no purpose. So when people don't have a purpose and they think, oh, this world has no purpose, it just came by chance, and I just am here, and my life has no purpose, it's all pointless, then it becomes very depressing very quick, So, and nowadays, he said that his talk was called The Crisis of Meaning. Crisis of meaning. This is the lack of meaning. And then he was saying how, like 1 in every 5 young people nowadays is like, clinically depressed, is like taking antidepressants or something like that, because they don't have meaning in their life. They don't have purpose. And so he says that science is not bad in itself, as long as, science. He said science is not bad. What's bad is scientism. So scientism is this belief that all all questions are answered by science, and there's no other reasonable way of knowing anything except empiric research. So if people think that, then everything just becomes very mechanistic and materialistic, and there's no scope for any metaphysics or spirituality or religion or God or soul or eternity, knowledge, or bliss, beyond that. Yeah. So yeah, he said that science is a good thing, but scientism is bad. And as far as religion goes, religion is a good thing, but dogma is bad. So yeah, dogma is also, the fanatical belief that that this is what we have to believe, and there's no scope for human inquiry or experimental analysis, or even comparing the belief to our rational human experience, right? So it's just that this is what it is, and you have to believe it, or you're going to hell. Like, that's problematic. So if we can have science and not scientism, and if we can have religion and not dogma, then the two can work together, and science can address the hows and the mechanics of material world, and we understand that that's basically their scope of what they can reveal to us in terms of knowledge. And religion can explore the metaphysics of the world, all these abstract things that are not material but are very, very real. And then we can understand how our world works, and then we can also understand why we're here and what the purpose of this world is, and how we can use it to achieve perfection in life. So yeah, the two of them go nicely together when they're done properly, each understanding each other's purpose and limitations. Ajit.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I was just thinking today because I'm studying addictions counseling right now, so it's science in the sense it's like social science, and I have a class right now on ethics. And so I was I had to listen to some talks where they talk about, okay, everybody has this innate, like, and they call it like gut feeling, or they call it things like that we all have like a sense of morality, a sense of ethics, but nobody's asking like why, like where does that come from? Like why do we have a sense of like right and wrong, and like this kind of like why does it hurt when we see other people hurt? Like nobody's asking those questions. They're just like, oh, there's this gut feeling or this, you know. Again, it's the why that's missing from science. Yeah.
Good. So yeah, also we have to remember that when we present Krishna consciousness to people, we should make sure that we don't do it dogmatically, right? That we encourage inquiry, we encourage investigation, we encourage, try it, experiment with it, like that. Okay, let us continue reading. Whose turn is it? Daishna?
If materialistic classical intelligence is not engaged with their imperfect senses, naturally they conclude that the living force is a product of material combination. But the actual fact is just the opposite. Matter is a product of spirit. According to Bhagavad Gita, Supreme Spirit, the personality of Godhead is source of all energy. When one advances in research work by studying a limited substance within the limits of space and time, one is amazed by various wonderful cosmic manifestations, and naturally one goes on hypnotically accepting the path of research work or inductive method. Though the deductive way of understanding, however, one accepts the spirit, absolute person, the personality of Godhead, as causes of all causes, who is full with diverse energies and who is neither impersonal nor void. The impersonal manifestation of the Supreme Person is another display of his energy. Therefore, the conclusion of that matter is the original cause of creation is completely different from the real truth. The material manifestation is caused by the glance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is inconceivably potent. Material nature is electrified by the Supreme Authority, and the conditioned soul within the limits of time and space is trapped by a way of material manifestation. In other words, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually realized in the vision of a material philosopher and scientist through the manifestations of his material energy. For one who does not understand the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his diverse energies because of not knowing the relationship between the source of which is known as Vivarta. No, energies and the energies themselves, there is always a chance of error which is known as vivarta. As long as materialistic scientists and philosophers do not come to the right conclusion, certainly they will hover above the material field without the proper understanding of the absolute truth.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Yeah, Prabhupada is saying, of course, the Lord is the source of all of these things, but that scientists, it reminded me of how Prabhupada would sometimes say that atheists realize God as death. So when death comes, they're like, oh, yeah, there is a God. He's taking everything away from me. There is a power that is beyond me. So it says that scientists realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the manifestations of his material energy. Right? So when scientists are doing their research and they're being amazed, right? He says they're doing the research with studying a limited substance within the limits of time and space. Even then, even dealing with limited substances, they're amazed by the various wonderful cosmic manifestations. Right? So that actually impels them to keep going on their research because they're making these amazing discoveries about the world. And just the material world, just matter is actually pretty amazing, right? The way it works. And so that's that's kind of like a kind of an adbhuta ras, right? with the Lord. Except they don't recognize that it's the Lord, right? All they need to do is recognize it's the Lord. Because if you think of scientists in the days of yore, back in the Renaissance time, pretty much all the scientists were theists. They believed in God, and it was about discovering the, wonderful manifestations of God's creation. Right? It was actually like a religious experience that they would discover something like gravity or whatever, something about the universe, and they'd be like, wow, God's creation is so amazing. God is so amazing. If you do any kind of the more you study something, you go into studying, the different, even the human body. You go into how the kidney works and how the liver works and all the different intracellular things that are going on there. It's so complex. It's this is incredible. This is an inconceivable work of engineering, to make all these systems and how they all work and they work together and they repair themselves and all this stuff. So, yeah, if scientists can just kind of make the connection that this is God's creation, this is God's energy, then they can become devotees very easily because they're amazed by these things. All right. Would you like to read?
Great Vaishnava philosopher Sri Baladev Vidyabhushan has very nicely explained the materialistic conclusion in his Govinda Bhasya commentary on Vedanta Sutra. He writes as follows. The Samkhya philosopher Kapila has connected the different elementary truths according to his own opinion. Material nature, according to him, consists of the equilibrium of three material qualities: goodness, passion, and ignorance. Material nature produces the material energy known as Mahat, and Mahat produces the false ego. The ego produces the five objects of sense perception, which produce the 10 senses, five for acquiring knowledge and five for working. The mind and the five gross elements. Counting the Purusha of the enjoyer with these 24 elements, there are 25 different truths. The non-manifested stage of these 25 elementary truths is called Prakriti or material nature. The qualities of material nature can associate in three different stages, namely as the cause of happiness, the cause of distress, and cause of illusion. The quality of goodness is the cause of material happiness. The quality of passion is the cause of material distress, and the quality of ignorance is the cause of illusion. Our material experience lies within the boundaries of these three manifestations of happiness, distress, and illusion. For example, a beautiful woman is certainly a cause of material happiness for one who possesses her as a wife. But the same beautiful woman is a cause of distress to a man whom she rejects, or who is the cause of her anger. And if she leaves a man, she becomes the cause of illusion.
That's so interesting. Yeah, so there's a couple of things in this paragraph. The first thing is this Sankhya system. So Sankhya literally means counting. So they're trying to understand reality by counting, right? By breaking the material world up into elements. Right? So he's listing all these elements, the different senses, the different gross matter, subtle matter, and then the idea is we're trying to understand who we are, right? Like who am I? And so this is what Prabhupada sometimes calls neti neti, right? That okay, I'm not this chair is made out of metal, it's made out of earth. I'm not this, and there's water, and there, I'm not that, and then there's air, I'm not that. So it's like, okay, what am I? So they go through the 24 elements, and they realize I'm none of those things. So there must be a 25th element, and that is the soul. That's what he's saying here. And then the Purusha, yeah, the actual person who is he says the enjoyer, or the person who is interacting with all these 24 elements.
Is Purusha here the Supreme Lord or the living angel?
The 25th element is usually the jiva, right? Who's trying to enjoy the material world. But then there's a 26th element, which is the Lord. I don't want to call him an element, but it's the 26th thing that is the cause of all this. And then, yeah, so then he says that these 25 elements or truths, which constitute Prakriti, right? Para Prakriti and Apara Prakriti. We interact with them, or we experience them in one of three modes. And I like the way he describes the modes because it makes it very clear what the effect. He describes them by the effects, right? That we can either associate with these things. These things can either become the cause of our happiness, the cause of our distress, or the cause of our illusion. So in the mode of goodness, everything becomes a cause of happiness. In the mode of passion, everything becomes a cause of distress. And in the mode of ignorance, everything causes illusion. So if you think about it that way, it's a very good reason to try to be in the mode of goodness. Because in the mode of passion, everything just causes suffering, always ends in distress. Okay, Raishi?
Yes, Padre.
The two kinds of senses, you have it?
The kind of senses are the 10 external senses and the one internal sense, the mind. Thus, there are 11 senses. According to Kapila, a material nature is eternal and all powerful. Originally, there is no spirit and matter has no cause. Matter itself is the chief cause of everything. It is all pervading cause of all causes. The Sankhya philosophy regards the total energy, Mahat Tattva, the false ego, and the five objects of sense perception as the seven diverse manifestations of material nature, which has the two features known as a material cause and effective efficient cause. The Purusha, the enjoyer, is without transformation, whereas material nature is always subject to transformation. But although material nature is inert, it is the cause of enjoyment and salvation for many living creatures. In activities its activities are beyond the conception of sense perception, but still one may guess at them by superior intelligence. Material nature is one, but because of the interaction of the three qualities, it can produce the total energy and the wonderful cosmic manifestation. Such transformations divide material nature into two features, namely the efficient and material cause. The Purusha, the enjoyer, is inactive
and without material qualities, although at the same time he is the master existing separately in each and every body as the emblem of knowledge. By understanding the material cause, one can guess that the Purusha, the enjoyer, being without activity, is aloof from all kind of enjoyment or superintendence. Sankhya philosophy, after describing the nature of Prakriti, material nature, and Purusha, the enjoyer, asserts that the creation is only a product of their unification or proximity to one another. With such unification, the living symptoms are visible in material nature, but one can guess that in the person of the enjoyer, the Purusha, there are powers of control and enjoyment. When the Purusha is illusioned for what for want of sufficient knowledge, he feels himself to be the enjoyer, and when he is in full knowledge, he is liberated. In the Sankhya philosophy, the Purusha is described to be always indifferent to the activities of Prakriti.
Yeah, so that's the nature of the Purusha because we're talking about the soul, which is the para prakriti. And the soul is actually not touched by anything material. So constitutionally, the soul is indifferent to the activities of prakriti or the activities of the material world. Like we as souls are not affected by what's happening in this material world. It's only when we identify with this body and we identify as our false ego that we become affected by all these things. So reminded me of the verse from Bhagavad Gita where it says, Purusha prakriti sto hi bhukte prakriti jam gunam karnam guna sangosya sadasad yoni janmasu. That the living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of material nature. This is due to his association with material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil amongst various species. So we are the Purusha, right? The Purusha, Prakriti, Sto. So he's talking about the Purusha who is situated within Prakriti. That's exactly what this paragraph is. He's talking about there's a Purusha who is situated within Prakriti. The Jiva, the soul, that's us in the material world. We're Purusha, Prakriti, Stohi. And what are we doing? Bhukte Prakriti Jan Gunam. We're trying to enjoy all the different qualities of material nature. We're just trying to squeeze some enjoyment out of this Prakriti, this material Prakriti. And Karanam Guna Sangosyat, according to our association, Sadasad Yoni Janmasu, we take birth in different species. That's the situation. So, yeah. That's what it's talking about here.
I just have two questions.
Yeah.
Here it says Purusha is without transformation. So they're actually referring to the soul, not the material body.
The soul, yeah.
And also it says, and I guess it's the same answer in this, because here it says Purusha is described to be always indifferent to the activities of Prakriti.
Yeah.
But we are not indifferent, right? We are interacting with Prakriti.
Yeah, because we're not realized, right? So, because like when Krishna in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, when he's talking about all the qualities of the soul, he's saying that the soul is not moistened by water, is not withered by the wind, is not burnt by fire, can't be cut to pieces by any weapon. So the soul is literally unaffected by anything material. So then why are we as souls affected by material things, right? We get disturbed when it's cold or when it's too hot or somebody says something or I, hit my head on the wall or something, like I feel like I'm affected by these things, right? Why is that I'm affected by all this prakriti? And that's because we identify with the body and the mind. So we have this gross physical body, and we have the subtle mind, intelligence, and ego. And those things are affected by prakriti because they are prakriti. Prakriti affects prakriti, but prakriti doesn't affect Purusha. So, yeah, to the extent that we are actually self-realized, then these things don't bother us so much. We can become indifferent to it.
Yeah, I have similar question when it says that Purusha is in Prakriti. So now I understand. And then here it says two things: how Purusha is the enjoyer, and then it says that he's not he's aloof from all kinds of enjoyment.
Yeah,
And
seems contradictory, right?
and then I was thinking that that Purusha, like the Krishna himself, he's the only enjoyer, and we try to become the enjoyer, but we forget we don't know how to be aloof. Like only he knows how to be the enjoyer and also not be the like
Yeah,
the same thing at the same time.
yeah.
All kinds, he's aloof from all the enjoyment, but still he's the enjoyer. What's
Yeah, so it seems like totally contradictory, right? That Krishna is actually aloof from all material enjoyment, but he's the enjoyer, and we souls are the enjoyers, but we don't enjoy. So yeah, the problem is that when the Purusha tries to enjoy Prakriti, there's no enjoyment because Prakriti can't give material things can't give enjoyment to the soul, right? The soul can only enjoy spiritual things. So Krishna's aloof from material things, but he's the supreme enjoyer because he knows how to enjoy. He enjoys spiritually. He enjoys on the platform of Shuddha Sattva, right, with all of his eternal associates and his transcendental pastimes, and right, all of his enjoyment is all transcendental. And our enjoyment is also the only way for us to enjoy is to enjoy transcendentally, which means with Krishna. Right? Transcendental platform means with Krishna. So yeah, there's so much enjoyment to be had with Krishna. We're meant to enjoy. We're made for enjoyment. We're meant to give Krishna enjoyment, and by giving Krishna enjoyment, by giving pleasure to Krishna, then we also experience unlimited pleasure. So that's the actual position. Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, and we're like mini enjoyers in relationship with Krishna.
Like we always hear in club, we're looking it in the wrong place.
Yeah.
For happiness in the material thing, but
Yeah.
actually we get happiness.
So our problem is that we're really invested in trying to enjoy this world, and we're indifferent to Krishna. Right? But Krishna is smart because he's indifferent to this world, and he's enjoying spiritually on the transcendental platform. So we have to, be smart. We have to do that too. We have to be indifferent to the happiness and distress, the ups and downs of this material world, and be a little callous. Right? Prabhupada uses that word. We should be callous to what's going on in this material world. Don't be so affected by all the things that are going on in the news and the economy and the politics and all these things. Just like have a little bit of a thick skin to all that, and find our enjoyment with Krishna and devotees and devotional service. Okay, should we read a little bit more? We're definitely not going to get through this purport today. I'll continue it tomorrow. Whose turn was it? Oh, you just read it.
Yeah.
The Sankhya philosopher accepts three kinds of evidences, namely direct perception, hypothesis, and traditional authority. When such evidence is complete, everything is perfect. Process of comparison is within such perfection. Beyond such evidence, there is no proof. There is not much controversy regarding direct perceptual evidence or authorized traditional evidence. The Sankhya system of philosophy identifies three kinds of procedures, namely parinamat, transformation, samanvayat, adjustment, and shaktita, performance of energies, as the causes of the cosmic manifestation. Wow, that's quite a paragraph there. So he starts off talking about the three ways of knowing, right? The three sources of knowledge, which are pratyaksha, direct sense perception, anuman, which means inference, and shabda, is hearing from authority. So yeah, this devotee who was speaking, scientist who was speaking, is saying that materials in science also has these three pramans, these three ways of knowing. So they do their studies, their observations, right? That's pratyaksha. They make their hypotheses based on observation. That's anuman. And then they also hear from experts, right? From scientists who have already done experiments and gotten results, and they learn from them, right? The same way you go to university, you go to your science class and you hear about all the scientific discoveries of the past and what they've learned and discovered, and learn about that. So that's shabda, but that's material shabda. That's limited. and it's subject to the 4 defects of, conditioned souls, that imperfect senses, tendency to cheat, make mistakes, and be an illusion. So in spiritual life, we also have these 3 pramans. So we also, Krishna says that devotional service is pratyaksha vagamandanyam, that we can actually experience our own spiritual advancement. Right? We can experience personal transformation as we practice the process of bhakti. And then anuman, inference, that we're encouraged to also think deeply, right? To reflect, to introspect, to philosophically speculate on the subject matter of the absolute truth for the sake of understanding it. And then, of course, shabda, hearing from authority, right? Hearing from guru, sadhu, and shastra, which is shastra that is apurusheya, that is not made by any human being, but that comes directly from God. So both in material ways of knowing and spiritual ways of knowing, there are these 3 processes of getting knowledge, and they're effective in their own spheres. So, yeah. Okay. I think we're gonna, well, we have over 3 minutes. Let's see. Do you want to read, love? Sri Baladev Vidyabhushan. Are you stuck on mute? There you go.
Okay. Srila Baladeva, no? Srila Baladeva Vidyabhushana. Is there?
Yeah.
Okay. Srila Baladeva Vidyabhushana, in his commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, has tried to nullify this conclusion because he thinks that discrediting these so-called causes of the cosmic manifestation will nullify the entire Sankhya philosophy. Materialistic philosophers accept matter to be the material and efficient cause of the creation. For them, matter is cause of every type of manifestation. Generally, they give the example of a water pot and clay. Clay is the cause of the water pot, but the clay can be found as both cause and effect. The water pot is the effect and clay itself is the cause, but clay is visible everywhere. A tree is matter, but a tree produces fruits. Water is matter, but water flows. In this way, say that Sankites, say the Sankites, matter is the cause of movements and production. As such, matter can be considered the material and efficient cause of everything in the cosmic manifestation. Srila Baladeva Vidyabhushana has therefore enunciated the nature of Pradhan as follows.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, so Baladev Vidyabhushan, he's a very important person, and he's in our disciplic succession. He's listed there in the disciplic succession that Prabhupada enumerates in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. And he's, I think he's there in the same generation as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. The 2 of them are listed together. And he made a very huge contribution to Gaudiya Vaishnavism because, see, there's different sampradayas, and in each sampradaya, there's a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. So there was someone who was challenging because see, Lord Caitanya appears in the Madhva Sampradaya, Brahma Madhva Sampradaya, but he changes the teachings, the basic teachings of the Sampradaya. So then he kind of like basically starts a new Sampradaya within an established Sampradaya, right? The Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. But then because no one from Lord Chaitanya down had written a commentary on Vedanta Sutra, so some of the philosophers from other sampradayas were saying, like, what is your philosophical basis? You just came in and said some things, and you need to have every sampradaya has a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. You need one too. Otherwise, what do you have? You won't be recognized as proper authoritative line. So then the devotees, I can't remember who it was, but they asked, because Baladev Vidyabhushan was a great scholar, so they asked him to write a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. That was a big thing, right? You had to be like very highly intellectual and scholarly and learned and Sanskrit and philosophy and all these things. So he was thinking of what to do, and he'd been given the instruction. So then he went to in front of Radha Govinda deities, Rupa Goswami's. Yeah. Yeah, he went in front of Rupa Goswami's deities, and he was just praying and praying and praying. I've been asked to do this task. I'm totally unqualified. I can't do it. This is like a huge thing, and it's so important. It's like, Gaudiya Vaishnava is going to be established on the premise of this thing. And so he was praying his heart out basically to Govindaji. And then Govindaji actually spoke to him. He said, "Don't worry, I'm going to help you," basically. Something like, I don't know the exact words, but he assured him that, I'm going to help you. You just write, and whatever comes to your heart. Yeah. So then Baladev Vidyabhushan, every time when he would sit down to write, he would just start writing, and it would just start coming. Whatever he had to. It was like the Govinda deity was speaking to him. So then he wrote the whole commentary. It all came out perfect. It didn't need even editing, nothing. It was just very perfect. And devotees read it and they were like, "Wow, this is fantastic." And here it is. And so he said that actually I didn't write this. This was spoken to me by Lord Govinda deity. And so I'm going to call it Govinda Vasya, because Govinda Vasya means the speech of Govinda. So that's, Gaudiya Vaishnava commentary on the Vedanta Sutra is called Govinda Vasya. So that's what Prabhupada said. He's saying that Baladev Vidyabhushan, in his commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, Govinda Vasya, he counters these points made by these materialistic Sankhya philosophers who say that the whole cosmic manifestation just came from a series of transformations and adjustments and interactions of energies, of material energies. So tomorrow's class is going to start with Baladev Vidyabhushan's explanation.
I thought until now we are talking about Sankhya from Kapila Dev, whom we read about incarnation of Lord in Bhagavatam, right? But then here, Baladev Vidyabhushan contradicts materialistic Sankhya philosophers or the Kapila Dev Sankhya. I'm confused.
Yeah. I mean, you know how there are the 6 systems of philosophy? So Sankhya is one of them. There's an atheistic Sankhya person who's, like a sort of an imitation Kapila. But then, see, I think what we get in the Bhagavatam from the teachings of Lord Kapila, he's not speaking his Sankhya philosophy there. Right? He's teaching something that's more like Vaishnavism. Mm-hmm.
But here's in the previous page, we were talking about the Sankhya philosopher Kapila.
Yeah.
I thought until now, whatever we read was what Kapila Muni.
Isn't it different couples? Like there are 2 couples.
So are we talking about the materialistic Kapila here, or the one Prabhupada says, okay, I think there is one purport where Prabhupada constantly reminds us that, okay, this is different from Kapila Dev.
Yeah, see, he didn't say that here, so I'm assuming it's Kapila Dev. But
initially I thought Kapila Dev, but then in this paragraph, they say materialistic Sankhya philosopher, so I'm just confused.
Maybe Prabhupada will put a little more clear. The Sankhya philosopher. It definitely does seem to be. I mean, it recognizes Purusha, but it doesn't. It doesn't attribute the creation to a supreme person. Right? Their point is here that they're making is that everything is this product. Matter comes from matter, right?
interaction with the
Yeah. So it seems to be atheistic Kapila, atheistic Sankhya philosophy. Yeah.
The atheistic Sankhya philosophers existed at the time of Advaita Acharya only, or it came later.
I'm not sure when that atheistic Kapila came about. Yeah, I don't know. But the system of Sankhya, like as a philosophical system, even in the Vedic tradition, it's not a directly theistic system. You know, the focus is still on the material world, right? But it's a way of coming to God consciousness by studying the material world. But still, the focus is very much, it's still very mechanistic. It's like a theistic, mechanistic approach, understanding the cosmic manifestation. So this could also be that Sankhya philosophy from the six systems of philosophy. And that's why it's separate. Like one of them is Sankhya, and then there's another one which is Vedanta. So yeah, we don't follow Sankhya, we follow Vedanta. Love, Prabhu.
Here, pratyaksha is a direct perception, right?
Yes.
And shabda?
Shabda means hearing from an authority.
Hearing.
Yeah, Shabda literally means sound.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, different ways that you can get knowledge, right? You can see with your own eyes. You can speculate based on other situations, other conditions. You can infer, or you can hear from somebody who knows.
Okay.
Okay, we're running late. We better wrap it up. Thank you all for coming, and come tomorrow. We'll hopefully finish the purport. Shri Caitanya Charitamrita ki jai. Shri Krishna Kaviraj Goswami ki jai.
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 Jai. Prabhupada Priya ki jai.